It is the happiest of hours at the Banner Bar, so let's get into it. Oh, so yeah, by myself tonight, but I did a stupid thing recently, right? I went to a doctor's appointment pretty far from my house, right? It's about an hour for me to get there to see my neurologist, just so I can keep getting my seizure meds. And like, I was gonna miss a lunch buffet at this place I like to eat, or if I went to that place to eat, I wasn't gonna make my appointment on time. So I thought I'll just stop somewhere, buy a few beers, right? I used to live out there. I haven't been to the Central Market in a long time. So, long story short, my dumbass, instead of spending the $15 it would have cost to eat at the buffet, I went into this store and bought, I don't even know, I think it was 12 beers and spent like 70 something dollars because I'm ridiculous. But because I'm ridiculous, tonight is something I've always wanted to do. We are going to put head to head a German brewery and a Japanese brewery. Now, you don't see too many Japanese breweries popping up around here, but Kaiuchi is where we're headed tonight. And Schlenkerla, I think, is the German one, if that's how you say it. It's the historic smoke beer brewery. And very excited, if nothing else, because there is a fucking Marzen at the table. So, let's drink, right? First up, what am I reading? Let's pretend this is a Helles lager. Helles Schlenkerla Lager Beer. Brewery. I suck at German so bad. I have a cousin who loves German. I don't know if she learned the whole language or what, if she just took it in school, but hats off, Meg, because damn, I cannot grasp that language to save my life. I think it's beautiful. So apparently what this brewery does is they keep the same yeast. It's the same strain of yeast that they use in all of their beers. It's kind of like people who do their own sourdough bread. You know, they move the yeast batch forward and just keep it as a living organism from batch to batch to batch for years. That's apparently what this brewery has done. So I'm excited about it. I was just trying to find the ABV, and it looks like I am SOL. I do tend to overlook it, though. What's funny is the front of this is smooth German, right? Almost nothing on the front that's not German. But you go to the back, and it's all English. There it is. It's 4.3. Like I said, I overlook. And the back clarifies this is a Helles lager. That smells really good. That smells really fucking good. Question is, what's something petty that you tend to judge people for? I will reference back to things I've already said. If you like beers like Stella Artois, there's some other things that aren't coming to mind right now that I really, really like to drink that are fairly common in the States. This is right up there. This smells every bit like those. This also has, like, there is a yellow tint to this, which I don't see in most of the other beers. And I know it's because it's Helles, but it just looks so fucking pure. Yep. It's going to be malty too. Shit. Let's drink it. So, definitely malty. Good body. It is under medium. And there's something earthy here, which is fucking perfect for this kind of beer. Yeah. It's like the most gentle smokiness that you could possibly want in something. Like when people talk about using peat in their scotch and whatnot, I'm always just like, no, I don't want it to taste like a fucking campfire. I want just like that hint. Like someone smoking a cigarette next to you and you just kind of catch it. or you're walking in your house and like someone down the street has a fire in their backyard and it just kind of barely wafts at you. That's where we are. In fact, I don't think I've ever said anything like this. This flavor profile reminds me of, like, if you've ever been out in the winter where like a dryer vent is blowing out its exhaust and you just happen to walk by and you catch that. I mean, that's essentially, it's very akin to that. Like I said, earthy, but not dirty in any way. It's fucking clean. How do you even score something like this? I'm just going to be honest. This isn't near perfect. This is flawless. So that is a 10 for me. I'm glad that I have a non-alcoholic thing to do in the fridge because I still got another episode to do tonight, and I'm probably going to drink that entire bottle. Here's hoping the rest aren't actually that good, because then I'm in trouble. Something petty I tend to judge people for. Thoughts and prayers really bothers me. I know people mean well. I really do know people mean well. So I don't want to sound judgy. It's just for all the reasons in my head, I end up thinking less of someone because of thoughts and prayers. Actually, less of someone is probably bad. It strikes me as someone thinking that they're doing something, but they're not really doing anything. But in the grand scheme, it could be argued that they are, because they are providing you emotional support the best way that they know how and the way they were taught. So I shouldn't judge people for it. It's just that my head tends to, because I want us all to be better than that. Like to take the 5 extra seconds to think of more than thoughts and prayers. But beyond that, I mean, even more petty. So someone sneezes and you say something like, excuse me, or excuse you. But when they start with the bless you, and yeah, it goes through my head. Like, why? How old are we now? We still haven't moved on to just like, oh, excuse me, that was kind of rude. Not like, oh, bless you, don't let the soul come out of your nose. And that's not what anyone's thinking, but that's what goes through my head. Anyway, riding high off of the high from the Schlenkerla beer, let's move on to the Kiuchi. This is the real ginger ale, which I keep saying Kiuchi, but if you see this anywhere, it's always listed as Hitachino Nest. And I apologize to the Japanese people who might be watching, and they might be watching because my brother-in-law is Japanese or lives in Japan. His wife is Japanese. His kids are Japanese. You know, all that. I don't mean to butcher it. I was just never very good at Japanese. Only recently, actually, did I learn that all these years I was saying the numbers in Japanese, which is what always stuck out of my head, right? As you could count 5. Ichi, ni, san, shi, go. And it's wrong. It's ich. How did teachers not know that, right? They're just reading the word and no, ich, ni, san, shi, go. And go actually has an inflection for an H at the end, so it's weird. Anyway, this does not smell like ginger ale. This smells like beer. I'll say that. What would your last meal as a death row inmate be, is the question. This is a weird one, man. It reminds me of like an amber, or maybe it might even be deeper than that. It's maltier than that. It's like a fucking wee heavy with honey in it. I'm not picking up ginger, but I think that's just because the body looks deep. Let's give it a shot. Oh. This is 8%, by the way, which I do not taste the booziness, but it has a medium heavy body. So in the mouthfeel, it's heavy. Heavier. But still super easy to drink. It's reminiscent of tea. I don't pick up a ton of ginger, but I could see how that would go away in the marrying of flavors. Does it actually tell you what? It says it's beer brewed with ginger. How much or whatever, they don't tell you. which is fine because we're just here to judge the beer. It's just interesting to me because ginger beers are a popular thing. Most of them are non-alcoholic, but they do actually taste like pure ginger. This does not. This tastes very much like a beer that has like roasted malts in it, and maybe the ginger is hiding in there somewhere. It's so interesting to me that different cultures manage different flavor profiles just using their natural ingredients. As an ignorant American, what I might think of as tea. Tea comes through here quite a bit, you know? Now that's, again, on top of a wee heavy, barely ginger beer. Regardless, that's a 7. So I don't want to go overboard with it. I feel like I could drink the whole bottle. I don't know that I would want to drink a whole 6-pack. Yeah, I'm starting to catch a buzz because I went back for more. So, and maybe my rating here is lower because it was put next to this monster, this absolute monster. Last meal as a death row inmate. Okay, well, I'm going to have to say I want this there. But apart from that, so I'll tell you what immediately came to mind, and then I'll tell you what the real answer is. What immediately came to mind is just like sesame chicken and rice with some soy sauce thrown into it. Our local joint does it beautifully, you know. I've tried Japanese across the country, and something about Denton Chinese chicken, man. I keep coming back to it. But it has nothing on what Dallas has managed to, or Richardson even, has managed to pull in, and that is a lot of the Eastern Asia sort of vibes. Like I get so much thrill from, used to be a joint in Richardson that we would frequent the Afghan Grill. Beautiful food. There's a place in Denton called Jasmine's that we got, like all of those Mediterranean food joints. They have such beautiful spices to work with, and they do beautiful work with the types of grills that they use. Again, I can't think of the words right now. I apologize. My last meal as a death row inmate, it's going to be just like a platter from Kebab and Curry off of I-75 in Richardson. If you've never been, they have a lunch buffet, so if you're local, go check it out, please. You may not get it the first time through because some of the chicken tends to still have, you know, like gristle in it. It takes a little getting used to. Like there are pieces you might pull out of your mouth and not actually eat, but the most beautiful flavors all around for all the food, and you will slowly but surely become obsessed with it. And I know how to make next to none of it at home, so it's always a special occasion to get to go there and eat. Next up, Schlenkerla, the historic smoked beer brewery, is bringing us their Doppelbock. It's oak smoke in this one, apparently. 8%, quite a bit up on the 4.3% from the other one. Oh, you get the smoke right off the bat from this. I'm not even smelling the Bock here. What I am smelling is, you ever go on a camping trip? You've been around a fire all night. You come home, you unload all of your gear, like throw it in a closet or something, and then you open the closet later and the campfire smell just hits you? Yep, that's what this is. All right, it's got a boozy quality on top. I can't place it. I want to say wine, but that's not right. It has to be a type of whiskey, right? I forgot to read the question. The question is, what's something you'll always say yes to? There is a brewery. I'm struggling to think of the name of it. They make the A Tout Le Monde Megadeth beer and a handful of it. They've always got this smoke infusion. That's really popping here. But it's nowhere near as off-putting as you would think it would be, assuming you like beer. Because it's ashy. Ashy is the best way to phrase it, but it's like a malty ash. So if you think like a malty Whopper, right? I mean, it's a fucking beautiful beer. Very unique. You'd know what it was. It's the wood. That's what it is. I kept wanting to say it was like a Scotch ale, but no, it's that oak smoke. You definitely pick up the oak. Can't do that yet. I'm not settled on a rating. So this isn't something I could drink all the time. Very unique. You might even call it special because it's one of the only things I've ever been able to say is kind of like drinking a campfire, but it tastes good. It's not off-putting. So the struggle for me is, that description sounds kind of like an 8, but the drinkability is more like a 6. So I want to say 7. Realistically, actually, I still have to say 7. I can't say 6. The quality of the beer is just too good. What's something I'll always say yes to? Discounting the obvious things like sex or sexual pleasure, I think I'd have to say something like adventure, a good time, planning the next event, going in on something that just sounds exciting, right? Too many of us now, we want to sit and watch movies or, hey, have you seen this new show that they released 3 seasons of all last week? Yeah. I don't want to do that. You can come over, we can watch a movie, but after the movie is done, let's bare our souls a little bit. Let's think up some, I feel like as kids, we had all these brilliant ideas for what we wanted to do in life, and almost no one messes with that anymore. It's just drowned out of everybody because we're all so busy and focused on work and surviving, and it's just annoying. This is not the life I don't feel like any of us wanted to be leading when we started out. So, adventure. I am always down for an adventure. Assuming sex is off the table. All right. Hitachino Nest, product of Japan. Again, this is Kaiuchi Brewery. This is the Saison du Japon. And come on now. It's 5%. Okay. A Saison, I'm thinking in my head like a Helles lager, but it's got more wheat characteristics to it. I don't know if that's right. It says fermentation here is induced with yellow koji yeast. Question is, what's the sexiest musical instrument? Okay, where's Eric when I need him? We have 2 sex-related questions. I feel like last time he was here, we didn't have any. And he kept thinking they were coming. But nothing. Or I just got drunk and don't remember. Which is possible. Probable. I'll tell you something that's weird. Because you probably don't know if you're out there at home. You have a night where you get super toasted, but we're on camera. You wake up the next day and you feel like you don't remember everything. And I know in my head, my brain hasn't compartmentalized that memory because I know it's on tape, right? So I tend to remember less of what we do here, but every time we go to edit or the episode pops up, I'm like, oh, yeah, I totally remember that. That actually happened. What this gives me in the scent is it gives me that coppery soy sauce thing, but it's a lighter beer. It's thick. You can't see through the glass, so it's hazy. Beautiful, beautiful scent coming off of this. Saison, wheat, but also something like orange peel, coriander, lemon, somewhere in that vicinity. It's not exquisite. It doesn't do too much to differentiate itself. It's just a beautifully made beer. Saison is typically not my jam, just because it makes me think of wheat beers. And wheat beers I tend to not be a fan of because they are a little too raw. There's something almost bitter in the flavor profile. I couldn't tell you what it is, but for me, something about wheat, it's like if you took the coriander flavor, which is beautiful. If you've been watching the show, you know I love that. But on top of that, you threw like some white pepper into it. Like some white peppercorn. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I will still give this beer a 7. Beautifully made. Better than good. And if it's all you had to drink for the night. One thing about Saison is it does feel like it has a smoky note to it that is inviting. So I don't know if it's actually smoke. I should probably read up on the beer types and know what they are in future shows and whatnot. But for now, we were just trying to drink and enjoy, ourselves. So cheers to you out there if you're enjoying yourself. This question is tough, by the way. Sexiest musical instrument? Like the one that feels sexiest to play, for me, is piano. There's something about that. But, I mean, I watch, like, beautiful women play drums all the time. I don't know how that happened, but I also follow someone who does, like, folk guitar covers of songs where she's, like, it's Lindsey Buckingham type shit. She's going to town on the main melody and the vocals, like it's all being picked up in what she does. Gabriella, I want to say Kivada, but that sounds wrong. I don't know. I'll post something in the comments, so if you're curious, check that out. The honest answer, though, it's bass. It's always bass. If you know anything about A Perfect Circle or Talking Heads, it's bass. That's all I have to say about that. That instrument is sexy as fuck. In the right hands, of course. Now for the moment I've been waiting for. The Marzen. And on the back here it says 5.1%. They really hide that. I want to look at the bottle and see if it says anything else. Now this looks every bit like I expect a Marzen to. It has caramel character to the color. So it's a darker bock. It's not quite a porter. Nothing approaching a stout. It smells smoky. That worries me a little bit. I think of Marzens as malty, maybe spicy, or caramel-esque. Not as smoky. And this smells smoky. And for some reason that has me freaked out. Let's read about it. Barley malts kinned over a fire of beechwood logs. Copper vessels malted for months in 14th century cellars. Yeah, it's a smoky beer experience. Apparently one of the last traditionally made smoked beers. Now, off the top of my head, when I see one of the last, I think maybe there's a reason people stopped doing this. Maybe I'm just scared to taste this because I set my expectations way too high. Question: what's the most afraid you've been on Halloween? I have to taste it, right? Caramel and smoke, like it genuinely smells like a smoky scotch with a caramel beer base. Holy shit, that's weird. Smoked sausage. I shit you not. Even like smoked breakfast sausage maybe, or something nearing like andouille sausage that you get in like a dirty rice. Whoa, that's weird. Unique as shit. I mean, that makes me feel like I'm eating food. Like this should be the drink. This is the food. If you had some like underflavored foods, this would totally go. Or if you're American, which a lot of you are, you could say like, God, what are they called? They're not wieners. They're not hot dogs. They are franks. Imagine like a broiled frank that had smoke characteristics to it, like it'd been in a smoker. That's what this is. And it feels like a beer you're drinking that has smoky fats in it. It's so strange. By far, not only one of the oddest Marzens I've ever had, one of the oddest beer experiences I have ever had. I'm not mad at it. I love barbecue. I feel like if you were eating barbecue alongside this, you might not need barbecue sauce. This tastes more like barbecue than like barbecue sauce. So think like brisket, smoked brisket. It's where we are. It's wild. And to be as heavy And dark as it is, it's only 5.1%. I've really come to appreciate, and I shouldn't because it's not cost efficient, but like a beer like this, they're lower in alcohol content than a lot of what we're doing in America right now. But I mean, for one of these, I could buy, 4 of, Boulevard or Founders and just be gone. Right? If you want to get drunk, you could do it here, but it's going to be an expensive experience. This is a tough one to rate, and I realized I have now drunk more of this than any beer at the table. I'm struggling. It has a very beautiful beer base. I really appreciate that the flavor profile is unique. I'm going with a 6. Primarily because the smoke is overkill for me. It's not bad. It's nowhere near the level of a Scotch, that has the peat in it. It's close to the campfire. It's not quite there, right? Now that my mind has been blown, the most afraid I've been on Halloween. There's a lot to choose from here. We went to a haunted house as kids, where you actually go into the person's house because they did that back in the 90s. It was strobe lights and like this dude had turned his house into a fake scary horror place. And he was running around with like spaghetti noodles under black lights, like screaming brains at people. And like, I didn't see it coming. I just thought we were getting candy. We'd always go to the rich neighborhood so we could get whole ass fucking candy bars back then. Because all those houses handed them out. Like, oh, here's a fucking candy bar. But this shit came out of nowhere. This dude scared the piss out of me. But it's not the most scared I've been. The most scared I've ever been was at, it was a haunted house. Like, it's a big event type thing where, like, you walk through a scary, what are those things called? Is it a haunted house? Is that what they call them? Like, where you walk through the, people trying to scare you and all that stuff. And most of it was on point. They did some cool things, like you had to walk through a tunnel that was spinning and it made you feel like you were falling, and there were people playing drums in like African outfits, and they're all under black lights and painted, and I remember getting in trouble for filming. But the scariest shit, because none of that was really scary. We've been to some like small town. Damn, I really thought someone was coming at me with a chainsaw at one point. But as dumb as this sounds, I got lost. I got separated from the group with Toby's younger brother, Brian, because he was freaked out. He was holding onto the back of my shirt and he was screaming at the top of his lungs because people were freaking him out. We wound up like going through the wrong door, and so we were kind of back in the employee area where we walked through, and I had no idea where we were going. We just kept walking. We eventually hit the exit. We missed most of this scary building that we were walking through. So we're just at the end, and I thought, okay, cool, it's fine. But we start walking into this, it had to be like 8 foot of bubbles, like 8 foot high. We just walk into it. Everybody's walking into it. The moment you get into the bubbles, you start to feel like you're drowning. Like you can't take a breath, and it's not like when water's falling over your face, because like you tried to breathe and bubbles like actually coming in your mouth or your nose or whatever. Eventually I realized like I could pull my shirt up over my face, and I mean it had to be a solid 50 foot of bubbles that we walked through, right? Like it freaked me out. So apparently my cousin had no trouble with it because he was behind me, so nothing really hit him. But yeah, that was the scariest I've ever been on Halloween. Last from the Japanese brewery is the Espresso Stout. This thing, it's 7% ABV. I'm trying to see if it said anything at all. Not really. Oh, she's dark though. Which I mean, stout, idiot. Come on. Keep up. Oh, fuck. That smells good. That smells really good. Question: what do you think would drive you over the edge? Longtime beer drinker, I would know this was beer, but just smelling it, it does smell like high quality coffee. Espresso, obviously, it's a little more condensed. It's going to be a heavier shot. I don't know why I poured so much. but lacing is decent for this type of beer. I mean, it's definitely sticking to the glass. You got little bubbles. That's what I expect from a stout, by the way. I don't want it to bubble much because it's a molasses type brew. It's thick, it's dark, it's going straight to your head. This thing is a monster. I'll say that right off the bat. If you like a coffee beer, but you want it to be more like those 12, 13% beers, you just don't want to get that drunk, right? So those stouts that have coffee chocolate quality to them, like Founders or Boulevard, this is right there, but it doesn't have as much alcohol in it. I will say it's a little lacking in sweetness compared to those. This is a chocolate bread that doesn't have an icing on it. Most of the American varieties do have that icing on it. Not my type of coffee. It doesn't have any sort of milky characteristic to it. There's nothing that takes the edge off of that just straight coffee bean kick. Like, it is built to punch you with coffee, and it does a wonderful job of that. Like, if this were a $10 bottle, I would say the slow speed at which you're going to be able to drink this makes it worth the asking price. It's not quite as boozy as some of the beers that are this dark, but I actually think that's a plus, since most people who like to drink the dark beers just end up way too drunk. We end up way too drunk too fast. This isn't going to do that for you, but it's also, you have to be a very big coffee lover to love this beer. Not to like it. You could drink some of it. You're just not going to love it unless you love coffee. And I'm talking strong, black. Maybe it's sugar. Maybe it's like there's a little bit of milk here, but no sugar, right? There's a lacking sweetness, which is exactly what I expect from a Japanese brewery. They are counting on the umami characteristics to kick into everything else that's happening, right? They want that to carry it through. Only here in America do you experience the type of Japanese food that we do. Like, they do it over there. It's much more rare. You know, they use mayonnaise. They don't use ketchup as much. If that makes any sense. Because ketchup is sugar sweetened tomato sauce. Mayo, it's eggs. I'm down a rabbit hole. 6. If you absolutely hated coffee, I could see you going down lower. But if you love espresso, this might be a serious hit for you. So beautifully made. Can't get past that. Like, as I look back at because I mean, this is a versus, right? 3 versus 3. I have some quality in Kiuchi that seems to be holding strong. Now, where Schlenkerla started out, it just started to get smokier and smokier, and that really threw me. So it's hard to determine a winner here if one had to be chosen. For me, much to no one's surprise, I will refer back to the German brewery. I feel like because that's easiest for me to have with something else. Like, if we were having a meal, I'm going to reach for the Schlenkerla beers more than I would for the Kiuchi beers. What do you think would drive you over the edge? I'm trying to not be basic, but literally the only thing that's coming to my mind is loss of my kids. It's really amazing how different my mind feels now that I have the kids. So it changed everything about my outlook. I don't honestly think, like, I might feel like suicidal tendencies and stuff at some point, but you just kind of brush it off, right? Like, you can never do that, man. You got kids, you know, life ain't so bad. Turn it around. Everything is okay. My wife's always been a big help there as well, but like the kids really cemented it in a big way. Changed everything. So to lose them, you know, I don't even like to entertain the thought. So that's probably what I'm going with. Anyway, help me keep the convo going by sharing this video, and we'll see you next time for another round Method Banter Bar.
I'll just leave you a little sip in case you want to go back.
I appreciate the sip.
to see how it feels in my mouth.
I guess we'll see you next time.
On the bench bar.
I didn't want to leave you who stuck around empty-handed, so let's have a look at it. I mean, I know this has to be paired with something. I feel as though mixing the entire lineup is just going to be smoky and coffee-esque and not work the way I want it to. We'll actually do the brewery versus brewery. Much as I hate to throw the Marzen back in the mix, here's the Marzen, the Doppelbock, the Helles. Get off of me, question. Doesn't smell nearly as smoky. Now, let's try and rate it. Still tastes mid-range, which you'd expect. Between two extremes. So it still just kind of tastes like the Doppelbock. So, I mean, again, real high quality beer base. Flavors more a 6, but the beer quality leans 7. And then Kyuchi, which none of these are their biggest beer. I think it's a white ale that actually made them popular, and we do have it coming in the show at some point. I just think it's still sitting in my fridge. So I tend to let guests come over and just choose what we're doing for the night out of a list of what we have in the fridge. And so some things have just sat there for a while. I don't even know how to explain the smell of this. Like, you just mix a ginger with a stout, through a Saison in the center of it. This looks like a beautiful mess. If it's mixers, Kyuchi takes it all day, every day. This is a solid 7. The hints of everything just, they work beautifully. So, it's really weird. I tried to set this up because I thought, like, as we went down, it was going to get better and better. And what's weird is, I mean, I'm here. Clearly, that Helles lager from Schlenkerla, ain't nobody fucking with that tonight. Farewell, beer snobs.